when we look back at, this in like 20 or 30 years, it'll be like that was a decade of, creativity that we'll never forget.
Formed in Whakatāne, New Zealand, award-winning band L.A.B. will headline Newcastle's Over the Ditch Festival, which is happening on the 22nd and 23rd of February. L.A.B. released their first 5 albums in consecutive years and have become a mainstay in New Zealand's music charts and on the festival circuit across New Zealand and Australia. Here's our chat with L.A.B.'s lead vocalist and guitarist, Joel Shadbolt. I'd love to start off by talking about the meteoric rise that L.A.B. has had as a band. What have been some of the most memorable moments so far?
Man, it's been an amazing ride, like we're 6 albums deep now and um, toured extensively around the world. We've played in Amsterdam and London and been to the States. It's hard to pick one moment, but I think, like touring internationally is has been a dream of mine as a kid, like being in a band that actually takes their music overseas and gets recognized internationally is probably the thing I'm most proud of for sure. And just amazing to be in places like Hawaii and people singing your songs, it's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Um, so it's been really special to spread our music, around the world and have that opportunity.
Yeah. Do you remember when you first realized that you wanted to, be a musician and perform on stages for thousands of people?
Yeah, for sure. I was lucky enough to be brought up in a pretty musical household. My father was a guitarist and singer, and my mum uh was right into her blues and listening to lots of different styles of music. So it was like dad had all the skills and mum had all the catalog, and between those two things, and I was lucky to have that as a kid. And yeah, so I think from a very young age, I knew no different, to be quite honest. I was always going to be a musician. I'm sitting in my mum's house at the moment, actually doing this interview, and all around the walls are pictures of the Chicago blues and lots of music stuff. So it's just in the blood. Mm.
Yeah, incredible. Who were some of the, like, other than your parents, obviously, because they've been major influences, but who have
Mm.
been some other influences from growing up?
Yeah. Look, I like all the blues stuff. I listen to a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan and um, BB King, Albert King, Joe Cocker, Van Morrison, people like that. And a lot of New Zealand artists, to be honest, as well. People like Dave Dobbin and Crowded House. Like,
Mm.
we claim them. Neil Finn's ours. But people like that. I was lucky enough to be brought up with some really nice music, and yeah, I think like with LAB that sound is I've been lucky enough to kind of express that sound through our music with LAB, the blues side of things and country and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Mm.
really funny that you say that about Crowded House because we totally try to claim them over here.
Yeah, you can have the Pavlova, but we'll take Crowded House. Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a fair trade, but we'll discuss it
No.
later. So
Okay, so
you're coming back over to Australia. You're going to be playing a festival here in Newcastle called Over the Ditch in February. And it's a pretty special festival because day one is kind of made up of all Aussie artists, and then day two is, the sound of New Zealand right now. So how does it make you feel to be able to, bring not only your music over here, but get to share the stage with people from, where you've grown up?
yeah, I think it's really special, and that connection to Australia with so many Kiwis living over there. Is really every time a Kiwi band goes to Australia, I feel we come home feeling very fulfilled, and obviously the crowd also gets that feeling of like a piece of home.
Mm.
And we really feel that as the artists, when we play places like Newcastle, Sydney, Gold Coast, Brizzy, with there's Kiwis everywhere, and it's really special to be able to bring the music over there and keep the culture alive. I guess is one way to look at it. It's like I know a lot of Kiwis move to Australia to for a better life and a more to earn a bit more money and whatever and a better lifestyle but they do miss that culture that they have left here in New Zealand. So I feel like we give a piece of that back to them every time we go over. And you feel it in the room, some of the I remember some of the early tours we did in Australia, just blown away with the energy of the crowd and how passionate they were about and so proud to be from Aotearoa, like it was just you could really feel it, man. So and it's gonna be cool, like you said, the day one with the Aussie bands, day two with the Kiwi bands. Hopefully there's a crossover where people stay for both days, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's cool, I mean, the thing I love about the Aussie music too, I mean, you know, Cold Chisel's one of my favorite bands, Barnsley, Ian Moss, like I don't know if they're playing at this festival, but point is like, there's a beautiful crossover of respect of the music from Australia and New Zealand, and I think it's such a great idea that they've really like made a festival that's like this.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Have you connected with many Aussie musos during your time in LAB?
Um, Not a lot, to be honest. I've got some friends that play in different bands. Like one of my mates, Ollie, plays guitar for Ian Moss, and I say he's a mate. He's a mate through a mate, and it's been really cool watching his journey. Um, you know, and I think there's a really cool thing going on in the scene at the moment. With kind of country and blue, like obviously country's massive at the moment, but on the more underground level too, there's a surge of like real roots, blues, R&B, country music coming through that younger people are listening to, and it's so
Mm.
refreshing hearing bands, play music from the 70s that has that kind of that sound and that feel, and it just gives me hope. Let's be honest, that the real music will stay alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, totally,
Mm.
totally. There are some fantastic bands that are, creating nostalgic sounds, but also, bringing new life to those
Totally.
genres. And it is really exciting. There are so many great examples right now. Look, you've just released, as you said, your sixth album. It's called L.A.B. 6. First question. I'd love to know, why have you gone with just a numerical like title system for your albums?
Yeah, I guess it's we we like to think of them as chapters of LAB.
Mm.
Um, and when I look back, when we're sitting in the van and we're talking about, oh, I remember blah 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 when we were recording album three, and we always kind of think of them in like chapters of the band, and um, like I've just got beautiful memories of recording the first album, and then album three came along, which had In the Air on it, and it took the band to the stratosphere. So it's like we
Mm.
we just have these kind of like moments of reflection when we look back at the albums, and it's quite cool when you lay them out. I just actually went around to a buddy's house to sign all six vinyls, and it was like quite cool to see the timeline of the evolution of the band and the sound that's changed. There's obviously stuff that connects it all together, but there's stuff that we're doing in album four that we would, you know, without the success of album two and three or whatever, we would never had the opportunity to use strings and take stuff to the next level in production and stuff like that. So yeah, I think one could say it's a bit lazy not coming up with an album name, but we kind of we've all been brought up around like lots of old school metal as well, so we're massive fans of Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and all that kind of stuff. And when we created that first album cover, we wanted to use that same artist throughout the catalog, whatever we created from that moment forward. And she's stuck with us since day one. She hand draws all the album artwork, and
Wow.
so it's I think when we look back at this in like 20 or 30 years, it'll be like that was a decade of creativity that we'll never forget.
Mm.
And just having the chapters is just like yeah, hopefully we get to chapter 10, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like we will. um but like Toto and Led Zeppelin have albums, or Toto 6 or Toto 7, I think it is, and
Yes.
Led Zeppelin 6. So
Yeah, of course, of course. So, how would you describe chapter six for LAB?
Yeah, look, it was 2 years in the making, and we previously had done an album a year up until that point,
Yeah.
and decided that, you know, we needed to just take our time on that sixth one, and I'm so glad we did, because it gave us the space to really hone in on those songs and get them to a place where we wanted to, and I think the sound of the album is, classic LAB with a bit of reggae in there, but sometimes I have to go back and look at the songs on the albums to figure out what blinking chapter we're up to. But um,
It's moved very quickly.
it is moved quite fast. Let's be quite honest here, eh? It's just like, hang on a minute. Yeah, I mean, like songs like Follow, we collaborated with a guy called Josh Fountain, who's done a lot of work with Benny, um, and it was really cool. It's something that we don't really do a lot in LAB. We keep it quite, indoors in regards to who we led in on a creative level. So it was quite cool to collaborate with somebody on this album. So you got songs like that.
Speaking of collaboration, sorry to cut you off, but
No,
I
you're right.
was I was just having a snoop on your Instagram before I jumped on here, and I saw a very familiar face, Teddy Swims,
Oh
and there was
yeah.
a collaboration with Teddy Swims maybe in the works?
Yeah, look, it was a bit of hype, let's be honest. But it was nice to meet him, he's
Yeah,
he's such a sweetheart. Holy moly, like he's just the sweetest dude. And he's 100 miles an hour at the moment. He's in what you call the purple zone.
yeah,
And I really hope that one day we get to meet again and we get to jam. He really, yeah, he's a fan of LAV, which is a buzz, and obviously he's done a collaboration with 660, where he did a cover of their song, and then when he came to New Zealand, I think he got up with Machu and they performed it together at the like Auckland train station or something. It was epic.
wow.
Um, but he's just a jammer, you can tell that he's a muso first and foremost.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what I love about Teddy Swims. He's like his voice is one of a kind. Absolutely. And just his personality and persona. He's always up for a jam, and it's like that's a sign of a true muso, you know what I mean? Um, so yeah, one day maybe. Look, I'd love to jam with that man for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I can
But yeah,
picture
like
him listening to LAB for sure.
yeah. Yeah, he'd be all over our stuff. It'd be cool to get him up. Um, Yeah, like we did on album six, we did a song called Ocean Demon, which is all about like growing up and surfing in the east coast of New Zealand, and talking about being a young, you know, young little grommet, getting your
Yes.
getting your board and going for a weekend trip surfing, So um using horns, we've used a lot of horns on this album, which is something that we kind of didn't start with, but we in regards to like the first couple of albums. But the further we got on, we were like, man, it'd be cool to incorporate a horn section into the live show. So we pulled the horns into the live, and then we're like, right, we've got to write some stuff with the horns, So
Yes.
we started kind of, yeah, composing with that idea in mind.
Yeah, it would have taken the energy to like a whole new level, right?
Oh man, it's just so much fun, like having horn players. It gives you options and just a whole nother texture to the sound, that yeah, it's a massive energy for sure.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I'd love to know what can we expect from your set at Over the Ditch Festival in February?
Oh, look, we'll be playing the bangers, but uh I think the LAB show is always different. Every gig we play, we mess with the set list, so it's never going to be the same thing. And I actually don't even know how long we're playing at the set, but I would assume it's about an hour. So, when it's a power hour, it's like it's trying to figure out what to play because we've got 65 songs, you know what I mean? So it's like there's obviously the ones you have to play, but we always mess with the other ones and try and come up with, some cool little ideas every show. So yeah, it'll be fun. It's just going to be a fun show for sure.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I can't wait to see you here in Newey on the 23rd
Yeah.
of February, 2025. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It's been awesome to chat.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it.